What is up? Welcome to Drifting into Freedom. I know it's been a while, y'all, but let's just say I've been going through it. From nearly escaping a hurricane, and of course, if you can tell by the title of this video, I no longer have my car. So let's get into it, shall we? So a few weeks ago, I moved to Florida from Texas. Now, you might be asking yourself, why Florida? Well, the truth is, I actually lived in Florida a few years ago. Florida is kind of like my second home. I have a lot of family there, so it made more sense to pack up my things from Texas and move to Florida, or so I thought. If you've been watching my channel for a while, you'll know that I also do some full-time house sitting. So upon my arrival to Florida, I did have a few house sits lined up. Long story short, by the time I finished my first house sit, y'all, I was just praying that I was going to finish out the remainder of the house sits, which included my final house sit, which was driving to Tallahassee, then to Philly. Long story short, by the time I finished my first house sit, my car started to leak. And at this point, that's not a good sign. Now, of course, this is no surprise, especially since I do travel a lot in my car. So again, with me using it a lot, driving it around a lot, it was no surprise. And of course, to get my car fixed, it was already gonna cost me $2,100 in order to get that taken care of. And at this point, I've already spent $2,500 replacing the brakes last year. So as you can see, this car was really sucking the money out of my pocket, which is definitely a no-no. Now, at some point, I did have someone go and check my car because I just wanted to make sure that I was gonna be safe on the road. At this point, we just couldn't figure out where the leak was coming from. And since I had already had a 3 to 4 hour drive from the area I was in to Tallahassee, I was a little worried that I wasn't gonna make it. Now, of course, since Tallahassee was the final stop of my house sits, I had been warned that that was it. No more driving it or attempting to drive it to Philadelphia. Now, I did manage to make it to my final house sit in Tallahassee, thank God. And of course, upon my arrival, Hurricane Helen decides to show up. And at this point, I needed to get out of there. So I was able to make some arrangements with the house owner, who thankfully had a friend in the area. She was able to finish out the remainder of my house sit. And so I'm really grateful for that because this allowed me to get on the road. Now, of course, I did still have things in my car. If you watched my last video, I only got rid of 2 containers. So I literally had just 1 container in my car. And at this point, I was just trying to figure out a way to get out of Tallahassee. So I was trying to find some flights out of Tallahassee. Of course, because of the hurricane, there were no flights flying out of there. Yeah, I did manage to book a flight out of Orlando. So I went to Goodwill, I went to Salvation Army. Y'all, I was just trying to get rid of everything I could at this point. Got rid of the remainder of my things, and somehow I fell into panic mode. All of a sudden, I just thought in my head, maybe I can outrun the storm. And when I'm thinking about this right now, I know it sounds stupid. You know, when I'm saying it out loud, like it sounds kind of crazy, right? But in my mind, I just knew I could outbeat the storm. So what did I do? I hopped in my car and tried to make a run for it. Now, to be fair, the area that I was house sitting in was actually the exact same area where the actual hurricane was targeting to hit. So you can kind of see where the panic came from. Like I was scared. I was fearing for my life. Like I said, I fell into a panic mode, jumped into my car, and let's just say I got as far as Georgia. I'm on I-95. I'm driving on the highway, and the next thing you know, my car starts to slow down. Thank God nobody was behind me on the highway, because let's just say that it could have been worse than what it really was. And I don't know if any of you have ever been on I-95, but it is one of the busiest roads that exist. So I'm up here driving on the highway. My car is literally starting to shut down, and I'm like, oh God, what is happening here? Y'all, I really had an angel watching over me that day. So anyway, I was able to pull over to the side of the road. I was able to call Geico. The guy comes to check my car, tries to start it, and he's basically like, this car is pretty much done. So thankfully, the guy actually had someone in the area who could potentially take my car. I was able to make arrangements with this auto place. I donated the car because at that point, I just wanted to get rid of it. So I took the remainder of the things out of my car, called a cab, because the area I was in actually did not have an Uber. I was literally in the middle of nowhere. But thankfully, the area where my car broke down in was literally a half an hour from Jacksonville Airport. When I tell you, y'all, that everything kind of sort of worked in my favor, let me just say that it did. So I call the cab comes and picks me up, and we head over to the airport. So I get there and I'm thinking to myself, I can still outbeat this hurricane. So I get in line at Enterprise. At this point, I'm trying to rent a car with my debit. Unfortunately, you can't do that. You have to have a credit card. Meanwhile, I'm getting a call from my friend Leanne. My friend Leanne actually lives in the Florida area, so she's dealing with the hurricane situation along with myself. She's like, you know, Tiffany, maybe you should hang around a couple of days just until the storm dies down. But I'm like, you know, Leanne, I think I can beat it. I think I can like outrun this hurricane. Meanwhile, my mom is calling, freaking out. And, you know, I'm just, you know, again, I'm in panic mode at this point. I just want to get out of there and get to Philly so I can escape this hurricane. So at this point, I am literally having anxiety. My friend calls me back and she's like, Tiffany, I went ahead and booked you a hotel. Just grab an Uber so that you can stay at the hotel for a few days and let this storm pass. So thankfully I did stay at the hotel for a few days, and I'm grateful that I did. So about the second day or so after the storm started heading more west, I went back to Enterprise to see if I can rent the car, and I was able to rent the car. I'm like, I gotta get out of Florida, because Florida at this point is just like, you know, I'm like, I've been here long enough. So as I'm driving, I see all of these trees. Picture this. Imagine someone just pulling a tree out of a root and just throwing it somewhere. It literally looked like the trees were like pulled out of its roots and just thrown all over the road. And I thought to myself, wow, had I left that night, the night that I was actually going to drive to Philadelphia, I probably would have driven into the hurricane. I'm just so grateful that I have supportive people around me who just tell me like, look, no, because sometimes you just need that one person to just tell you no. And yeah, if you are watching, Leanne, I just want to say thank you. I know I can be a little hard-headed sometimes, but you know, hey, I'm human. So yeah, I managed to drive out of the Florida area safely, made it to Philly, thank God. So at this point, I don't have a car. And to be honest, I don't think that I am going to plan on getting another car at this time. Although car life has been great, you know, I really love the freedom that came with it. But at this point in my life, I really don't want to purchase another vehicle. You know, in between the high car payments, the high interest rates, the maintenance, the gas, the insurance, I just don't want to go back into debt over a car. To be honest, I would rather put that money into an investment and watch it grow. So obviously with me no longer having a car, there's going to be some changes to my channel. But don't worry, we are still going to be drifting into freedom together. Just without the car. for now. And I hope that you continue on this new journey with me. In the meantime, I'm still going to be doing some house sitting because house sitting does allow me to still travel, but on a budget. And who knows, maybe that could be an alternative to you as well. So still going to be doing that, still going to be doing some light traveling. And if you are still wondering whatever happened to that flight out of Orlando, let's just say I did put insurance on that ticket. So thankfully I was able to get my money back. For once, the insurance actually worked. What can I say? Of course, this was all due to delays as well. Now, at the end of the day, stuff happens. Hey, I'm just grateful to be here to tell my story because so many things could have went wrong on that road trip, but thankfully it did not. So I'm very, very grateful. Now, if you or your family were affected by Hurricane Helen, believe me, you are in my prayers. Anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, comment down below. Also, don't forget to subscribe to my channel as we drift into this new journey together. See you soon.
I don't know what's going on, but more bad news.